Welcome to Teachers Tribe International Community. Our today's presenter entered the world of IB in 2018, from where he traversed PYP, MYP, and DP in a very short span of time. He eventually found himself as an edu blogger, speaker, mentor, teacher trainer, and an ambassador for the creative arts. He has contributed to many blogs on international mindedness, creative economy, etc. Today, he is going to lead a session on implementing inquiry in single subjects. Please welcome Mr. Vaishak Raj, an MYP dance facilitator.
Hello, hi Anila.
Hello.
Hello everyone. It's so good to be back. I think it's my second session with Teachers Tribe International. Last time there was a uh, lot of questions, a lot of love, and a lot of feedback that I got. So I'm really, really looking forward to today. And first of all, thank you for everyone who is joining us from different parts of the world on a Sunday evening. It's 8 p.m. in India right now, but I'm sure it's different timings in different part of the world. But having said that, the passion to learn and the passion to collaborate, the passion to know more, that keeps us alive. And I think so. It's a big deal that we are all making time for all the learnings that we are taking back to our classrooms. So yes, so today I wanted to talk. Not I wanted to talk. I was told to talk about inquiry. Hello, Zanira. Yeah, I want. We were told to talk about inquiry actually, and initially I thought, okay, I'll talk about this. I'll talk about that because there is so much out there in the internet as resources that is available on inquiry-based learning. Now, if I thought if should I come with a presentation and talk about it, but then I thought that is that's not how I understood inquiry, and that's not the way I want everyone to understand inquiry, especially in single subjects, because when we talk about inquiry, uh, now let's talk about very practical aspects. Like when we talk about inquiry, mostly it happens with the UI, everything it happens, and then you have this bubble of single subjects where some of them find it really really difficult to understand what is happening and what is inquiry all about. And though we know that pyp is an inquiry based pedagogy, everything at the heart there is inquiry. But when we talk about single subjects, like when we talk about subjects like music, we talk about dance, drama, physical education, how do we implement inquiry here? Because inquiry for teachers who are teaching single subjects is a big word, because they feel that this is something that is very actively happening in the classroom. And how do we bring inquiry here? So the moment they hear inquiry, if anyone is very fresher to IB, they just get mind blown. What is this? This is some super concept that I have to get into. So I wanted to make it quite simple and practical, and just to understand that what inquiry is at a very basic level. Now you might be very surprised to know that though we tell that actively inquiry is happening in the UI classrooms, but if you ask me personally, every single subject, be it music, drama, dance, every of the or most of the single subjects that I have come across, they themselves have learned and mastered this craft only through inquiry. Today I want to talk more about that. So let's leave the pedagogy and everything to a side today, and let's understand how we learn. Now I know I want to discuss with most of you, but unfortunately I can't see many of you, so I'm just going to ask random questions. Anila will be answering most of them here. She has no clue what I'm going to ask also, but so I wanted to keep it like a clean slate. In the meantime, if any one of you want to answer, you can keep writing. I can read whatever you write, okay, in your comment section. uh, so Anila, um, tell me something that you're really really passionate about, something you're really passionate about.
Technology.
Technology. Okay. Why are you passionate about technology?
Because I see it changing, evolving.
Hmm.
So, suppose I just talk about WhatsApp. Earlier,
Hmm.
we used to have very less emojis. Now,
Hmm. Hmm.
sometimes you want to just express yourself, you don't have words at times. You can
Correct.
simply, for anything you are in, even in you're in a hurry, you can just select one and send. So that's how. Also,
Oh.
even if I'll talk about how we use in school. So for
Hmm.
our learners in PYP, I see
Hmm.
these students getting very much motivated. So if it becomes monotonous, it's good to use technology because instantly it brightens their face, and everything goes on right track. So that's why I like.
Okay. So if I may ask you, can you just go back, like when was the first time ever that you used technology?
So I think I was in grade 4 or something when computers were there. So we
Hmm.
used to, I remember we used to remove our shoes and then enter the computer lab. So there used to be, those cursor and all, turtle and all there. We used to have a competition kind of thing. Who's going to do it fast? And we
Yeah.
used to get star. So there, I thought that I can do something because I used to get appreciated for that, and
Yes.
I think that's what I
So
faintly remember.
that was your that point where you understood that you are more inclined towards technology. Okay.
Yes.
Then how did you take it forward from there? Like, for example, okay, that was your initial point where you got that your eureka moment that that you found something that is yours. So how did you take it from there? Like, obviously your teachers helped you taught you many,
Yeah,
many
yeah.
things.
So
But did it
not
did it stop there? Did you take something forward beyond your teaching and
Yeah,
everything? Like,
in my first job when I was working with ICICI Bank, then there
hmm,
also I started using technology, and I found that I was quite, people used to scare that
hmm,
this is something new. I don't want to try. I don't know. I used to think, why it's not a bomb. You don't have to worry. Even if you go wrong, it's okay. So I was very comfortable with that, and I could see, yes, I'm excelling. Which things which are difficult for others, I can also help them. So
no,
somehow I felt that I was very good at it, and these, different, I wasn't scared of, I was a risk taker, I would say, and I wasn't scared of new features that was coming in. And as it is, it was helping others. So I used to see it like that, that it is helping everyone. It is helping us to, walk along with the world. So at times, you're sitting here and you want to talk to someone who's sitting in Bombay, and you can, instantly connect and
correct.
talk.
I can very well relate to you because I also remember in my school, the first time, when the computer lab used to be the most coolest place in the school because that was the only room where air conditioned, like ACs were there. Like what you told, it used to be like a temple. We used to remove our shoes and everything, and we used to stack them in one corner, get inside, and uh, I'm the generation. I think so you're also from the same generation, which actually first saw email IDs being formed, to Facebook being formed, then to WhatsApp being formed, then to Instagram, and to what all. So that's a whole different line of how social media has evolved with our time. But it's so this is like, if I can say, like, this is nothing but inquiry. So that entry into the computer lab was somewhat, I can say, was your provocation that provoked you to explore something really, really more about something that intrigued you. And I'm just quoting a word from what you have told, that you felt that there was something for which you were being appreciated. Now, in a lot of sessions, I have heard so many people talking about inquiry, different levels of inquiry, which I will also speak. But there is this terminology that I came across, and I feel it is so, so powerful. It's known as appreciative inquiry. And we often forget this, that, so we see inquiry as a very, what should I say, analytical thing, and, a lot of analysis. But appreciative inquiry, I feel, is one of the strongest forms of inquiry because it's clearly because you have experienced it, and I'm very sure everyone who is watching here who is passionate about something, it may be something that you are currently teaching, or maybe no, it might be just a hobby today, but you're really passionate about it. But that passion was driven by appreciative inquiry if you really, really analyze it from a different point of view. So if you see your children in the classroom, some of them are so enthusiastic about sport, some of them are so enthusiastic about art, dance, or some of them are so enthusiastic about science. Why? Because at some point, some teacher or some what should I say, instance was an appreciative inquiry for them. So that drives the whole thing. Long back when I was reading different definitions, long back when I was reading different definitions of inquiry, there was something that there are three words that came. I remember circling them, and I still keep it them in one of my diary. It tells that what makes the learner curious and the inquiry in the classroom that happens leads to the learner taking responsibility of learning and understanding. So curiosity, inquiry, and responsibility. So if we so these were the three keywords from that definition. But if you see it in a larger picture, when we talk about PYP, also it's the same thing. We inquire, then we acquire the knowledge, then we reflect, and then it leads on to action. So that's how. So we feel that inquiry is a very modern day concept. It is not. It has been existing for more than thousands of years. It is actually a scientific method to understand, to innovate, and everything. So if you talk about like Socrates and Confucius, even there is references where they have used inquiry. Most of their discoveries were inquiry based. If you actually see it now, that's what I want to make single subjects understand. Why do most of us, like I became a dancer because I'll tell you very frankly, I always wanted to dance, but I never ever took a step to dance. I was so scared. I was always involved in my class. I was studying so well. Everything was going. I was really. My provocation came when, one day I was sitting at home and watching a TV, and one person who I particularly knew personally, he was dancing on TV. And that sort of thing, I'm like, oh my God, he was, and I sort of modeled him. And, I thought, okay, if he's also doing it, let me also do it. And I had no clue about dancing. But that made me research and find about what are the resources available that I have, what or more should I need. And somehow that learning took on its course. I had many teachers who have taught me over the period of time, but I think so what kept me going, what keeps me going, is still I'm very curious to know what more is there, what more is there. So it is one of the strongest forms of learning and student-centered learning. When we talk about student-centered learning, inquiry is one of the strongest forms of student-centered learning. So that's what I want to make single subject specialists aware that, we are there where we are because we were inquiry-based learners much and before. Because like if I talk about India, like long back, most of it was from a very traditional education point of view, where a teacher used to come, used to deliver, and then used to go, and a lot of rote learning was happening. But even amidst that, we took up our passion and we made something out of it because we were inquiry based learners. So inquiry is not something very alien to us. It has been always there within us, and we have been practicing, and we have actually reaped results out of it also. So that's something that I want to tell all the specialists out there, that this is not something very supersonic. This has been there in our life throughout. It's just that someone has given a structured and you know made a, what should I say, gave structure to it, basically give the entire learning thing a structure and a form. So that was something which I wanted to address first, that let's remove this barrier that inquiry is something that only happens in the classroom, that too in the UI classroom, and does not happen anywhere else. No, inquiry is everywhere. There's a line also, inquiry is everywhere. I don't know, I read it in my IB or thing, uh, in one of the resources. Inquiry is actually everywhere. So, one thing now, if I just now, Anila, you take your example like of your journey with the whole technology uh, line. Okay. Now there are four phases of inquiry. Now there are different versions of how people explain this four phases of inquiry and levels of inquiry. I'm just taking two examples because this is something I feel it's very practical. This is something which I have personally experienced and seen in my classroom. Now, parallelly, when I'm talking about these four phases, you please draw the line where from your personal learning journey of your ICT. Okay. The first phase is orientation. This is where there is mostly discussion about what is happening, everything, discussion of a key idea, I may say. Then there comes to the second phase where students actually ask questions, and then they form their own hypothesis also. And then, so this is the second part, which is conceptualization, which involves questioning and hypothesis formation. Then comes a third phase, which is investigation. And this is where we explore, we experiment things, we collect data, and finally we make a conclusion. So this is how it happens. So are you able to understand which was your in your learning journey that you experienced? Can you understand which was the orientation phase, which
Yes,
was
I
the conceptualization? Yeah, if you can you just share with everyone?
So orientation was when we also had books where hardware, software, and everything was there. So everything I could understand that these are the things, and then I was exploring it myself. And because
Correct.
we used to have questions, but not too many teachers to answer, so I was doing my own personal inquiry into it, getting curious, and then trying to go further in it. And I think that all happened after we had left studying this subject ICT.
Subject.
So then I was on my own journey, and I had
Yeah.
understood this subject is for me. I no longer have to be worried about, and I can do much more in ICT.
So in a very in the IB language, we can say that you took agency of your own learning.
Yeah, yes.
Exactly. So this is where it all led to. So
Mm.
similarly, everyone here today has an experience. I'm just trying, you should correlate with your own personal experience. Now, there is something called levels of inquiry. Now, often they ask me, okay, inquiry in the classroom, it is happening like this, like in single subject specialist, how can we bring inquiry? And there's so much discussions today out there. How can we bring inquiry into single subject specialist? Now, their levels of inquiry helps if you understand levels of inquiry and how you can relate it with the subject. Now, like we know that mostly we hear about three levels of inquiry. The other end, it is like this one, teacher centered, which is like a closed, which is like confirmation inquiry. Some people call it confirmation inquiry also, where the teacher creates the questions, teacher models, teacher guides. It's very heavily dependent on the teacher. Then comes to the next level, which is structured inquiry, which I think so most of us do, where we create the initial questions and we model the process also, but then we let the students take on the rest by collecting the data, making their interpretations and everything. The last one is open inquiry. Open inquiry, between that there is something called guided inquiry also, which also I feel most of us do. Most of the teachers who I sort of interact with, they do for a form of guided inquiry, where teacher creates the initial questions, but students from there onwards. So teacher initially creates the inquiry questions and the framework, but then the student, they take on the research process, the investigation, the experimentation, everything. Last comes to the open inquiry, which is completely student led. Now,
Free
all
inquiry, I
these,
would.
yeah, free inquiry, open inquiry. uh, See, the terminologies can differ a little bit. Like I told you, I may not be the best person for terminology explanation. There's so much resources outside. I'll tell you what practically has worked well for me. Now, when we talk about levels of inquiry, structured inquiry, guided inquiry, open inquiry, let's talk about something that we practically do. We all develop planners, we all do planning a lot. How much are we planning with regard to inquiry questions? Are we dividing it into factual, conceptual, debatable questions? Where are we giving room for students to ask questions, students to prepare questions? So all this is happening in the planning part. I had delivered a session earlier for Teachers Tribe itself, where I was discussing about how to develop planners in single subject specialists, where I particularly told how do we develop these plans, how do we go about inquiry questions, and how do we use inquiry. So a lot of time we frame inquiry questions also, but where do we use the inquiry questions? So that's an altogether different session of its own. I don't want to go there. That's recording is still available in Teachers Tribe channel. So anyone who wants to refer that, they can go back there. But today, what I want to particularly talk in with regard to single subject special is the power of unstructured inquiry. Now, it is not mostly mostly talked about, because we are so focused on levels of inquiry, and what is out there. But the power of an unstructured inquiry, like for example, Anila, there are so many people who walked into that computer lab with you. Not everyone got the provocation the way you got. Similarly, like I used to tell, when we bring guest lectures, or when we take our students on a field trip, or when we take them for a learning walk, it is, I feel that those are the opportunities for unstructured inquiry. And with regard to artists, sports people, unstructured inquiry can make wonders, because we do not know. It is just like a sampling, like we have a sample size of students, we expose them to that unstructured inquiry, to that learning experience. One of them gets motivated and inspired by something there, because we're not planning anything. They're going for a field trip, they're going for a learning experience, they're coming back. We do not know what have they come back with. Then when we all sit, right, our reflections, and then we start to share with each other, then we understand, okay, what is the learning experience everyone has. And it is so beautiful, because if 15 students are going for a learning engagement, or like a field trip or a field study, and then they come back, 15 of them will have different experiences to share. And that's something so powerful about unstructured inquiry. And I feel, with regard to single subject especially, that's one point where you can actually start from. For example, you're teaching music, drama, or dance. Take them for a dance performance. Not maybe seeing, like, I in my school, what I used to do is, if the senior children, they are performing something, or they created something, I rather invited the junior batches. For example, if MYP 1 is performing something, I used to call my grade 5 or grade 4 and make them watch that. Because when they get exposed to that, and when they see that, especially when they see their, like, people from their own school community performing something or acting on something, then they get inspired, they get motivated, they get provoked to bring on some new learning. And this has worked very well with me. Like, when I came, especially in schools, they, especially with dance, I'll just talk a little bit about this. Especially in dance, people used to tell that, boys dancing is very less compared to girls dancing. Girls dance more. The number of girls dancing in a school is more, very high compared to the number of boys dancing. In my school, I can tell that it's almost equal with regard to this, because it's not about gender, or it's not about that, what all traditional inhibitions, everything we had, we broke down it just through unstructured inquiry. It has worked very well. Another example I'll share with you, I have written a blog also, which is published in the IB community, that during the pandemic time, so I was like online, like I have never attended an online dance class in my life. And suddenly I was in a position where I have to deliver online dance classes, that too for MYP, where the curriculum is also quite structured and quite uh, expands. So I wanted to see what new I can bring. Now, so in MYP we have, it goes through four tasks. Task one is about investigating a performance, then it goes to developing skills, then it goes to creating, and then finally you reflect on the entire process and evaluate your progression. Now, during that time, I had taken up a performance by a British award-winning dancer whose name is Akash Odetra. So he's a Kathak dancer, Kathak and contemporary dancer, but based in UK, in Birmingham. So that particular year, he won the uh, British Empire Medal from Queen Elizabeth II for his meritorious services in dance. And there was one performance of him, uh, which was talking about his life as a dyslexic child. So he had dyslexia, and they could not identify it for a very long time. So in a very conservative education system, he was always looked down for what he could not do, rather than the entire community focusing on what he was good at. So he made an entire performance out of it, and it was beautiful. So I, in one of my discussions, I actually showed them this whole performance. And my third class or fourth class, my students actually came and told me, sir, why don't we recreate something? So when they talked about recreation, I thought, okay, maybe they're trying to copy the steps and make something very similar. So then they told, no, so let's, we learned something called as a strategy known as add, uh, add, keep, change, discard. So this is used in design. It's a design strategy. So add, change, keep, discard. So they told, sir, why don't we use add, change, keep, discard, analyze this performance and create something. Now add, change, keep, discard was very new for me also at that point of time. So I went back and I also studied what is add, change, keep, discard. And I think this is beautiful. This is something really can. So what they did is, once they saw the performance, they added something to the performance, they discarded something from the performance, they changed something from the performance. They, so they kept something, they statically remain. So what they did is, so since Akash was talking about his life as a child in that performance, they told what can be the thoughts that happen in the mind of a dyslexic child, and what kind of emotions do they go through, and they made a performance out of it. So like when you're talking about Indian context, we have the navrasas, which is the nine emotions. So they took that, they made a small experimentation on that, they developed their own movements, they divided the whole class into different roles. Okay, this person is good in music editing, he will do the music editing. This person is good in video editing, they will do video. This person is good in scripting, this person is good in acting. And they, the entire thing was student led, and and which made me also more curious, like what is happening, how is it happening, where can I help. So my roles also had to split. One day I had to work with the script writers, one day I had to work with the video editors. So the entire collaboration happened with Microsoft Teams, and then we made the final performance also, and it was so good that I really got inspired. And through one of my peers, I actually sent the video to Akash Odedra, and him and the entire company actually made a video message for my entire students from UK, and they send it across to us. And they send a huge bunch of gifts also for our children from UK to India. And when I, so it was a big thing. It, we are talking about the second wave of pandemic, during the peak of second wave. When everyone was falling ill, and there was so many things happening in so many families. But I understood, even in such a um, very catastrophic moment, like how powerful is inquiry, like how it took on from from what I imagine, that how difficult dance can be in online, to what it has led to. Everything came through inquiry. So it is that powerful. We actually underestimated most of the time. So that's what I want to tell everyone, that there, all the structured information I can give you. Thank you, Snigdha. All the structured information I can give you, that like there are phases of inquiry, there are levels of inquiry, there are types of inquiry, but then it's our creativity. There's something an interesting known as coupled inquiry. That means, for example, when we talked about structured, unstructured, guided, free inquiry. There's something called as coupled inquiry, where we can use two forms of inquiry together. Say I'm using guided inquiry and then open inquiry together. So we can play around with these also. So that's another way where single subject specialists can, use inquiry. Now there are some, when I interacted with some of the other educators, especially in Cairo, in Egypt, and all, so there they had few what should I say, strategies, which I found very interesting. So there's something called as Wonder Day. So for example, we are teaching a concept, something. So they come up with something known as Wonder Day, where the child will come, every child will come up with something that made them, that eureka moment or the aha moment, that they come up with some information that they found really that sort of blew their mind, and they all share, and can be from any subject, anywhere. There's something other than another teacher where she was sharing, and something called as question day. So I'm teaching something. So most of the time we are like, I in a traditional system, I don't know how much of us still do it, but in a traditional system, we always like, okay, what is the answer to this question? What is the answer to that question? Okay, what is the answer to this question? We are so much focused on answers, but we actually don't encourage children to develop questions. Like, if answering is important, I feel asking questions is much more important than that. Today answers are available. in the internet through resources. Answers and facts are out there everywhere, free for everyone. But what is going to change the way you think, the way we want to learn, and if we want at all something to impact out there in the real world, it only happens through questions. So they brought something like question day. So I used it in my class also, that there'll be a question day. Okay, we are learning, so we are analyzing this performance, we are investigating this. Come up with questions that if you are going to meet this person, like you're going to have a interview with this person, give one question that you want to ask him. So the power of asking questions, never underestimate it. It is it has immense possibilities out there. It can you I don't know if any one of you have experienced this, but I have experienced it multiple times, that I have planned my inquiry, I have structured everything. This is the result. I get that result also. How I've structured everything, I get the result. But in between these two phases, the starting point and the end point, the pathway, which the learning takes, it takes me to different, like for example with MIP1, when I was doing this, I never knew we will create one project and it will reach to an international level, we'll get responses from that. That same project inspired all the other batches which were coming after that to sort of create their own. Now my current MIP1, they have done something. So their unit was on stage presence. Now they have come up with a whole project known as the dance photography project, where they are addressing climate change through dance. So all this, the theme, the structure, everything was student led. So they were thinking that okay, today social media is there, this is there, how can we make an impact through dance? So I basically asked, how can we make an impact through dance? What happened after that was completely student centered. Now, which brings on to my next point also. We tell that the teacher takes up the role of a facilitator when inquiry is happening, which is true. And most of them think, okay, if we are the facilitator, like, what is our real role there? Like, what is our role there? Do we teach something? Do we do something? Or like at times we have to hold ourselves back also and let the student carry out the process. And this is very, very tough for many teachers to, just let that go and let the student be the investigator or take on the learning. I feel making that environment of where unstructured, and yes, to motivate, to bring in appreciative inquiry, to make the learning environment suitable for an inquiry, that's the role of a facilitator. And that's where all our subject expertise, our planning, uh, our vision forward, our expectations, everything comes into play there. How we create that environment. Now when I talk about all this, you can actually think that all this is very much evident in performing arts, in physical education, in so many single subject specials. So it's already there. We just need to identify and sort of do it with a clear understanding how this is flowing. So that's something which I wanted to do, and I did not want to use a slide, just because I feel so passionate when I talk about inquiry. So I did not want to use a slide, but I prepared a few slides because I know a few of them, they want to take screenshots and everything. So I prepared something for you. Don't worry. Okay. So I like telling stories. So Anila, I'm going to tell you a story. Okay. If you're there. Okay. Anila is coming back. Just give me a second. Anila, okay, you're there. Back now. Okay. I'm going to tell you a small story. Okay. So and we will discuss. All the others, you are also more than welcome to participate in this. I hope everyone loves stories. May not be the best storyteller, but I'll try my best. Okay. So our learning objective is to understand how inquiry leads to independent learning. We have already seen Anila's example. Okay. Okay. I'm using a persona. Okay. I'm a dance teacher, so I like using more dance examples. So Michelle is an IB PYP dance teacher who recently started teaching grade 4 students. So she specializes in ballet, but is very open minded to learn and teach other dance forms also. Now, we have two of our children, Sarah and Rachel. So they are grade 4 students and they are inquirers and they also love ballet. Okay. And they're very, very curious as to why Michelle ma'am chose to learn ballet like them. what is that connecting factor? Why does she also like ballet? Happens mostly, it happens when, when you're a new teacher entering a new school. Especially if you are a single subject specialist, then I think somewhere you must have heard this. One of your students will ask this question, some in one form or the other. Now let me tell you the story. So when Michelle ma'am was very young, when she was in grade 4, her dad and mom took her for her first ballet concert. And on seeing the performer there, she got so inspired and so motivated that she kept on, imitating what the dancer did at home and everything, which actually made Michelle's father to bring her for her first ballet class. So they took her to the studio. And on reaching the studio, Michelle was so inspired by her teacher, who was full of joy and full of fun. And, she always used to come up with something new. And, it always used to inspire Michelle. Now, Anila, I want you to answer this from your point. Now, how do you think inquiry helped Michelle? Or, okay, how do you think inquiry helped Michelle?
I think initially she was just copying her teacher's steps.
Hmm.
And then when she might be doing, she must be thinking a lot that why this movement, why am I putting my hand like this? Why am I moving in this direction? So that would have intrigued the child and the teacher, sorry. So then she would have gone about thinking and then inquiring. I think that would have been provocation as well.
Yeah. So what was the provocation? For example, now I told you entire Michelle's story. Okay, I want people in the comment section to also answer. What was the provocation to Michelle's inquiry? What was the provocation point? Where did it all start from?
When they when she went to concert,
When she went for the concert. Unstructured inquiry. Now, what helped her sustain her passion for learning? She's still a teacher. She's still doing ballet. What helped her sustain the passion?
I think her job.
Job was one part, but she went into the job also as a dancer only.
So I think she would have developed love for ballet
Yes.
herself.
And by that time, she had already taken on the agency of her own learning.
Yeah.
So, do you think inquiry, now this is an important question for all of us today. Do you think inquiry can still help Michelle at this point in her career? What do you think, Anila?
Yes.
Yes. Today, all of us at Sunday 8, wherever we are in the world, we are sitting here because we are inquirers. We are still inquirers. That's why we are here, curious enough to know something new or take something new back to our classrooms. So we are all inquirers. Inquiry is helping us every day. That's why I believe in the like inquiry is actually everywhere. Okay. Now, while you're planning, this is something that has caught my attention long time back. It's a resource which is already available there. Nothing prepared by me. It is not being constructed by someone else. But I really found this very useful. So the 5 hours in inquiry-based learning. So this you can. Yes. So the 5 hours in inquiry based learning. One is rigor. What do the students need to know and be able to do in order to respond to the questions accurately, effectively, and thoroughly? Now, when we talk about the advantages of inquiry based learning, there are some studies that brings out what are the challenges in inquiry based learning also. One of the challenges in inquiry based learning is student participation, and the second challenge is teacher preparedness. Okay, so this is something that we need to focus on. Second is relevance. Why is this question essential or important to examine and explore and answer? And especially, you should see how is it, connecting to real life situations. How we always talk about transfer of learning. I always tell people that for example, we are learning something at this point of time. Why do we learn today? Like for example, um, if I may ask, like why should I, know a periodic table by heart today when I can have it at a snap of a second in my hand? There are so many resources available there. So how much is it relevant today? What I'm learning, what skill am I acquiring today, how much is it relevant today, and where am I going to use it in my real life world? Always have a thought process about this. Relationships. Who or what can help students attain the information needed to answer the question? Results. How are students expected to answer or respond to the question? And finally, reflection. So these are 5 hours in inquiry based learning. If you have a little, this is a little notch up. If you can, think in terms of this while you prepare your inquiry based learning and inquiry questions, it'll be really helpful. This helped me a little bit, so that's why I'm sharing. These are the phases of inquiry that I've already, discussed, and we used Anila's example to segregate the phases: orientation phase, conceptualization phase, investigation phase, and finally conclusion. In orientation, that's when you actually, discuss about a key idea. Then we question, and then we prepare our own, we make our own hypothesis. Then we explore, and then we experiment. We collect data, we interpret data, and then we come into a conclusion. So inquiry based learning primarily is a scientific method of learning. Levels of inquiry, which I've already discussed again: confirmation inquiry, structured, guided, and open. I've explained it so much. We have taken so many examples. I don't want to, read out again. But just for people who want to take snapshots, I'm just sharing this for you. Okay. Thank you so much. That's all from my side. Anila, anything you want to ask?
I almost felt like I was part of the class only. I was your student, and along with you had many students. I would say you had Mr. Shiva Prasad, Surekha, Marisa, Savita, Vijay Lakshmi, Daksh, and many more.
Many more.
And
I'm open to
yes,
take questions also. We have 5 minutes, I think so. If anyone wants to ask anything particularly, last time I couldn't take too many questions. I was so sorry about that. I kept on talking. This time I made 15 minutes at least. I'll spare for questions. Anyone would like to ask any questions? Otherwise, yeah, it's always. Oh my God, thank you so much, Snigdha. I've learned so much from you also over the years. Anything you want to ask Anila particularly, you can be the voice. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shiva.
so I would like to ask you, from specialist point of view, how do they see like when unit of inquiry is going on? So many times they're not able to integrate, thinking that there is so much to for for students to learn in their particular subject. So
Mhm.
how do you bring that balance? Because that's a
Okay.
constant question and struggle.
I understand. Long back when the first person who told me about transdisciplinary learning gave me a beautiful example that still is in my head today. Also, when I'm speaking. Oh, I forgot to tell you one more example about provocation. I'll tell you. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, now I'll answer your question first about integration. Um, yes, may not be, I always feel integration should be authentic. A lot of integration that I see today is very thematic. I remember my first coordinator, Miss Arpita, when I tell this, she used to, you know what should I say, push us to that level that where she truly feels this integration is quite authentic. So I've learned a lot about integration from her. Whenever I speak about integration, I always remember the first person that comes into my mind is Miss Arpita. So uh, there is this example where she shared about transdisciplinary learning. For example, we are organizing a birthday party now. And if you have a daughter or son, say you're organizing their birthday party or someone's birthday party at your home, what all do you need? You need your visual art skills to design the cards. You need writing skills to send out the invitations. You need quite a bit of decoration. You need mathematical skills for your budgeting. You need to know a little bit of music to select what kind of music is required there. You might want to prepare a few, dance steps also that can entertain the people at that point. You might want to prepare a few dance performances also with the kids, and so on and so forth. So many subjects coming together to address something, and address something of one point. Now, similarly, if you look, no subject today is in isolation. Today, we are living in a world. Can you tell that dance and technology is not related today? Absolutely no. It is not. Can we tell dance and environment is not related today? No, we can't tell that also. So everything, I'm just talking about dance because I'm a dance teacher, but similarly with your subject, do you think actually your subject is in isolation, that it is something of its own and has no relevance to what is happening in the world out there? It is not. It's just that we are not able to find that authentic connection. Now that's where we have to push ourselves as a teacher. Now that's why a constant updation on what is happening now. What See, I have learned dance from, I have 12 teachers who have taught me over the so many years. All of them have, some of them were very conservative teachers, very traditional teachers, some of them were quite modern in their explorations. But what they've taught me years back, how am I bringing relevance today? What is its relevance today? How am I addressing it? Like, I'm a contemporary dancer, so the story of how contemporary dance came is a very interesting thing. It's also, if you see, a way of addressing something, that there were traditional dance schools which were always about ballet and classical dance and blah 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 blah. Over the period of time, modern dancers, when they came, modern issues came up. We had claustrophobia coming up, we had mental anxiety is coming up, we had so many other things. Now you do not have a structured, your structured dances are not able to express these things. So in that case, what will you do? Will you stop telling about and expressing about all these things, telling that, oh, in the structured way, we are only talking about kings and queens and classics only, we're not talking about this, so I can't? Or will you say that, no, I have the skill, I have the knowledge, let me find another pathway to address this? It's the same mindset that you should have for integration. So for example, when the unit of inquiry comes up talking about landscapes, or something like stories can be told in different ways, or say governments, immediately I would think, oh, this is not related to our subject. But how do you know today? How can you validate that it is non related to your subject today? Do we have enough knowledge to tell that it's not connected to our subject in any way or the other? So it is not like that. So a constant updation on our own subject. What is the relevance of our subject in today's world? If one person comes and asks me that, okay, Vaishak, why do I need to learn dance in today's world? Why should I go to a class and learn? And I have so much YouTube tutorials out there. What is the relevance of dance? What impact does it have on my career? Like, uh, especially when so these are some things that we should think about. So integration is not something that we should be afraid of as single subjects. Integration is very much possible in every subject. We just need to be quite, what should I say, quite updated about what is happening there. A constant, like, we need to update our knowledge, definitely. That is one part about it. Second is power of collaboration. Yeah, in isolation, maybe I might not know how to make a link with this, but I'm sure there might be someone who I can collaborate and bring up some good idea. So constant knowledge updation. Second is collaboration. Third is experimentation. You have to take a risk at times to understand, because a lot of times when I wanted to integrate on a particular line and it never happened, and I ended up doing a integration with another line of inquiry than what I have planned. So that kind of experimentation, and I'm very sure if you have a great communication and what should I collaboration with your coordinators and the grade level teachers, this is also possible, because that's how it happens. This happens only through collaboration, because we are talking about different disciplines coming together also. So yeah, that's my thing of integration.
Then thank you so much for answering that. But we have two, three more questions here.
Question. How do you feel about? I can read one by Meena Sharma. How do you feel about learning language like Hindi and Kannada will go with inquiry? Same process. Okay. Language learning. I told you I wanted to become a language teacher. Uh, so language with inquiry again. Meena, again. Um, when you talk about traditional languages, or like local languages, Uh, Again, I think first, because when we talk about, we feel that inquiry is something out of the context for us. No, we have also learned it through inquiry only. I became so interested in languages because, I used to. mm, I'll tell you. I'm from the '90s, so I can just tell this very openly. Also, like Harry Potter series was such a big thing. Now, why I became so an avid reader is because I have this habit that, what I read, if I see it, I get a very big visual imprint. So most of the times, I like, if you talk about any of the, all these kind of stories like Chronicles of Narnia, all those things, I read all those books long, long back because I watched the movie first. The movie got me intrigued as to how it is being written, how it looks in a written format, how it's looking in a visual format. So that was my process of learning inquiry about language. That's how I got involved into more languages. Then I remember, especially when I was learning poetry, like there was a, I think my class 8, 9, 10th, I was only into poetry, just reading poetry, writing poetry, everything. Because in our school, there was something known as the recitation competitions. And it was not a normal recitation competition. And I'm talking about like 2000, what, 7, 8, during that time. So we then used to have opportunities where we have to recite at the same time, we have to make a PowerPoint presentation or through a movie maker, just so that when we are reciting there are background images and everything representing same. So it was altogether a process of its own. So there are different ways that we can bring in inquiry into languages. So I'm sure you can get much better ideas. I'm just throwing ideas from what, I experienced as a student when I was back there studying. Yeah. Any other question? Like, how do you bring inquiry for a foreign language when they don't know the language at all? Okay. To bring in foreign language when they don't know the language at all, I feel structured play or unstructured play can help a lot in this. I have seen few teachers doing this uh, with structured, like, just think about our situation. For example, we are stranded up in a place. Say, I can I can tell you this because I'm from South India. I'm from basically from Kerala. So 8 years back when I came to Delhi, I did not know a word of Hindi. Okay, I think today also I'm still learning. Okay, by the way. So what do you do first? How I learned it, if you ask me. So this is how we should actually think. Like, put ourselves in that situation. How will we learn in such a situation? So I always used to observe, like, for example, if I have to book a cab, I used to listen to my friend. What does he tell to, book a cab? Okay, what is this dish called? What is that fruit called? So simple things. Why don't you organize something like a scavenger hunt? Like, put the child that, you have entered into, or like a role play that, you have entered into this city, and you're going to spend one day in the city. You have, say, enough money with you or enough resources with you, and you want to buy, but you have to tell particulars. So you have to just, name out few things that you need in a day, something like that. So some kind of a structured game or an unstructured game, I think, so can help in this. This is my idea. I'm sure there are so many people with much more extensive idea. Yeah.
That's all. I can see only these questions till now. And one more here. I think you
can we
answered this.
integrate
So
can we integrate every unit with English? Of course, why not? I am, if you come to my school, like, I am so much in collaboration with my English teachers, because obviously I love the subject also. That's another altogether definition. But yes, you can integrate every unit with English. I'm sure there is no doubt about it. Yes, Anila. You can see something loading. Oh my god. Okay.
thank you so much. Uh, as I said, I felt like a student, and my learning is also same. I could now relate to many more things. Being, always as a facilitator, you are on the other side of the table, and you see things differently. Thank you giving me this opportunity to be there as a student, and I'm sure all the participants that are here would agree with me, and I look forward to having another session with you.
Same here. I also look forward every time I come here. It's so much of love and so much of learning actually for me also, because the questions they ask me also, I'm also now, believe me, I hope you can get in touch with me through LinkedIn or something, because I'm very sure after some time I'll get more ideas on those foreign language and everything. So I'm just thinking on those terms. What will be so good? Like, I'm drawing parallel connections with my subjects also. So yeah, I think I always love being here because there's a lot of new learning for me also every day. And Anila, interacting with you has been so much of a joy and pleasure. It's wonderful because I can see so much of passion in you also, being an educator and constantly learning and looking out for new things out there. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, audience. Thank you, Vaishak. Bye.
Bye bye.